Christmas at the Bennett family home had always been my brother Derek's stage. This year was no exception. He'd arrived 2 hours early to position his new Tesla Model S prominently in the driveway where every arriving guest would see it. "Fully loaded," he announced to our cousin Mike before the eggnog had even been poured. "Autopilot, premium interior, the works." Mom beamed at him from across the living room. "Derek's always been such a smart negotiator. Ever since he was little. Takes after his old man," Dad said, clapping Derek on the shoulder. "Good to invest in quality when you can afford it." I arrived at noon, as requested, carrying homemade cookies and a bottle of wine. No one noticed my entrance. Derek was showing Uncle Paul photos on his phone, detailed shots of the car's interior. The dashboard display, the charging port. "The acceleration is insane," Derek was saying. 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds. I took it up to Portland last weekend just to test it out on the highway. Portland's only 40 minutes away. I murmured to no one in particular. "What was that, honey?" Mom asked vaguely, already turning back to admire more car photos. "Nothing," I said. "Where should I put these cookies?" "Kitchen counter is fine, dear," she said, waving me away. I set down the cookies next to the store-bought desserts and poured myself a glass of wine. The familiar role settled over me like an old sweater, the quiet daughter. The responsible one? The one who didn't require management or constant attention because Derek absorbed all available parental bandwidth. Aunt Linda arrived fashionably late at 12:30, sweeping in with gifts and enthusiastic hugs for everyone. She was my mother's younger sister, recently returned from 5 years in San Francisco, where she'd worked in venture capital before retiring early at 52. "Merry Christmas, everyone," she announced, distributing wrapped packages. She reached me and pulled me into a tight hug. "Chloe!" "There you are." "Hi, Aunt Linda," I said warmly. She'd always been my favorite relative, the one who actually remembered details about my life and asked follow-up questions. "I heard about your $5.4 million in venture funding," she said, her voice bright with genuine pride. "Series A from Benchmark and Sequoia." "That's incredible. Those are top-tier firms. You must be thrilled." The living room didn't just go quiet, it went silent. Derek's story about the Tesla's regenerative braking system died mid-sentence. My parents, who'd been admiring Derek's photos, froze in place like someone had pressed pause on reality.
Dad managed to croak out, "Startup? What startup?"
I calmly adjusted my napkin on my lap, taking a sip of wine before responding. "HealthBridge. The telemedicine platform I founded 3 years ago," Aunt Linda continued, oblivious to the shock radiating through the room. The TechCrunch article was fascinating. HealthBridge secures $5.4 million Series A to revolutionize rural healthcare access. "That's such important work, Chloe. Using AI to connect rural patients with specialists. It's going to save lives." Mom's wine glass trembled in her hand. "You founded a company." "A medical company?"
"A healthcare technology company," I corrected.
We've built a platform that uses AI-assisted triage to connect patients in underserved rural areas with appropriate specialists via telemedicine. We're currently serving 47 rural hospitals across 8 states. 47 hospitals? Derek said faintly. His Tesla photos suddenly seemed less impressive. "And growing," Aunt Linda added enthusiastically. "The article mentioned you're projecting 200 hospitals by end of next year. The expansion plan is ambitious but well-funded now." Dad had gone pale. "You raised $5.4 million from venture capitalists?" "Actually, the total raise was $5.4 million, but that includes the $1.2 million seed round we closed 8 months ago," I explained. "The Series A specifically was $4.2 million, led by Benchmark with participation from Sequoia and 2 healthcare-focused funds." "I don't understand any of those words," Mom said weakly. Aunt Linda laughed. "Benchmark Capital is one of the most prestigious VC firms in Silicon Valley. They funded Uber, Twitter, Instagram. Sequoia funded Apple, Google, PayPal. Getting both of them to invest in your Series A is like getting into Harvard and Yale simultaneously. It means they see massive potential in HealthBridge." My cousin Sarah spoke up from her spot on the couch. "Wait, Aunt Chloe, you're like a tech CEO?"
"Technically, I'm the founder and CEO, yes," I said.
"Though we're still small." 32 employees currently. But we're hiring another 20 with the new funding. Derek found his voice, though it came out defensive. Why didn't you mention you were running a company? That seems like something you'd bring up. I did mention it, I said calmly. Multiple times. 3 years ago at Thanksgiving, I told everyone I was leaving my job at Kaiser to start a healthcare technology company. You asked if I was sure I wanted to risk a stable paycheck. Dad suggested I was making a poor financial decision. Dad flinched. I don't remember that. I do, Aunt Linda said. I was sitting right here. Chloe explained her vision for improving rural healthcare access, and Derek changed the subject to his promotion to senior account manager. Derek's face reddened. That was 3 years ago? 2 years ago at Easter. I continued. I mentioned we'd signed our first 10 hospital clients and closed our seed funding round. Mom asked if I'd met anyone nice. You spent 40 minutes discussing your new apartment lease. You never said it was millions of dollars. Mom protested weakly. The seed round was $1.2 million, I said. I mentioned the amount. You said that sounded complicated and asked Derek about his dating life. Aunt Linda was looking between my parents and me with growing understanding. Oh, I see, they didn't. You really didn't know about HealthBridge. We knew Chloe was doing some tech thing, Dad said defensively. Some healthcare startup. We didn't realize it was successful. Successful is an understatement, Aunt Linda said, her voice cooling. HealthBridge is one of the hottest healthcare tech startups on the West Coast right now. The patient outcomes data they're generating is extraordinary. They're reducing specialist wait times in rural areas by an average of 67%. They're catching critical conditions earlier, improving treatment compliance, saving lives. She pulled out her phone and brought up an article. This is from the Wall Street Journal 2 weeks ago. 10 healthcare startups to watch in 2025. HealthBridge is number 3 on the list. She turned the phone to show the table. There was a photo of me from our company's recent press event, standing in front of the HealthBridge logo, looking confident and professional. You were in the Wall Street Journal, Derek said, his voice hollow. And TechCrunch and MedCity News and Healthcare IT News, Aunt Linda added. Chloe's been profiled in at least 6 major publications in the past year. I've been following everything. You have? I asked, surprised. Of course, she said. You're doing incredible work. I told everyone at my old firm about you. My former partner actually reached out to you for the Series A, didn't he? Michael Chun from Red Point Ventures? He did, I confirmed. We had several meetings but ultimately decided to go with Benchmark's offer. Though Michael was very professional about it. Because you had multiple term sheets, Aunt Linda said proudly. The TechCrunch article mentioned you had 4 competing offers. You could afford to be selective. Mom was crying now, quiet tears rolling down her cheeks. I can't believe we didn't know any of this. You could have known, I said gently. I sent you the TechCrunch article when it was published last month. You texted back a thumbs up emoji. That article was about raising $5 million. Dad asked. $5.4 million technically, I said. And yes, the headline was pretty clear. HealthBridge secures $5.4 million Series A to revolutionize rural healthcare access. I thought it was just, I don't know, tech news, Mom said weakly. I didn't read it. Clearly, I said. Derek had been very quiet, his earlier bravado completely deflated. So you're a millionaire? I own 43% of the company post Series A, I explained. HealthBridge's current valuation is approximately $28 million, so my equity stake is worth about $12 million on paper. But that's not liquid. I can't access that money unless we sell the company or go public. $12 million, Derek repeated. Your share of the company is worth $12 million. On paper, I emphasized. Startup equity is complicated. The value could go up or down. But yes, that's the current valuation, Uncle Paul whistled low. And here I thought Derek's Tesla was the big family accomplishment this year. Derek's face went from red to white. Aunt Linda wasn't finished. The really impressive part isn't the valuation, it's the impact. Chloe, didn't you tell me last month that you'd facilitated over 15,000 patient consultations this year? Just over 16,000 as of last week, I confirmed. We're averaging about 350 consultations per day across our network. The AI triage system is getting better at matching patients with appropriate specialists, which is reducing wait times and improving outcomes. You're helping 16,000 people get medical care, my cousin Sarah said softly. That's amazing. It's what we set out to do, I said. The technology is just a tool. The real goal is improving healthcare access for people who don't live near major medical centers. Dad was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. How did you learn to do all this? Build a company? Raise venture capital? Manage employees? I read everything I could about startup operations, I said. I found mentors in the healthcare tech space. I made a lot of mistakes early on and learned from them. And I worked very, very hard. Who were your mentors? Mom asked. Several people, I said. Dr. Susan Martinez, who founded a health tech company that sold for $80 million in 2019. James Chin from the Healthcare Accelerator program we went through. Rebecca Stone, a former hospital administrator who became our first advisor. And Aunt Linda, actually, who gave me feedback on our pitch deck before we went out to raise the seed round. Everyone turned to look at Aunt Linda. Chloe sent me her business plan 2.5 years ago, Aunt Linda explained. Asked for my honest feedback. I spent 3 hours on the phone with her, going through the model, the market analysis, the competitive landscape. Her plan was solid. I told her she'd have no problem raising money if she executed well. You helped her raise money and never told us? Mom asked. Chloe asked me not to, Aunt Linda said. She wanted to prove herself without family interference or premature celebration. I respected that, thank you. I said to Aunt Linda, your feedback made a real difference. You did the work, she said firmly. I just pointed out a few gaps in the initial financial model. Everything else was your vision and execution. Derek stood abruptly. I need some air. He walked out to the back deck, his shoulders tight. His girlfriend Amy followed after a moment, touching his arm gently. Through the glass doors, I could see them having an intense conversation. Derek was gesturing animatedly, Amy shaking her head. I think I broke Derek, I said quietly. Derek's ego got confronted with reality, Aunt Linda said. That's not your fault. He spent years being the golden child while you built something extraordinary in the background. We didn't mean to ignore you, Dad said, his voice strained. We're proud of Derek's accomplishments. They're tangible, understandable. A new job, a promotion, a nice car, we know how to celebrate those things. And venture capital raises, healthcare technology platforms? Those were too foreign to even acknowledge. I asked, keeping my tone gentle but honest. We should have tried harder to understand, Mom said. We should have asked questions instead of just nodding and changing the subject. Yes, I agreed. You should have, my cousin Mike spoke up. For what it's worth, I think what you're doing is incredible, Chloe. My mom lives in rural Idaho. The nearest specialist is 3 hours away. A platform like HealthBridge could really help people like her. We're expanding to Idaho next quarter, actually, I said. Let me know if your mom's doctor is interested in joining our network. Really? Mike pulled out his phone. I'm texting her right now. And Linda smiled at me. See? This is what matters. Real impact on real people's lives. Not flashy cars or big salaries, actual meaningful work that helps others. Derek returned from the deck, his face composed but subdued. Amy stayed outside, giving him space. I owe you an apology, Chloe, he said stiffly. I've made everything about myself. My job, my car, my achievements. And you've been building a company that actually matters, and I never once asked you about it. Thank you, I said. That means something. What you're doing is more important than anything I've ever done, he continued. Selling insurance, buying expensive cars, it's all just surface stuff. You're actually changing lives. Your work has value too, I said, because it was true. People need insurance, but yes, our work serves different purposes. He sat down heavily. I feel like an idiot. Going on and on about a car while you're out here raising millions and saving lives. The car is nice, I said diplomatically. You worked hard for it. Not as hard as you've worked for HealthBridge, he said. Be honest. I thought about the 18-hour days in the early years, the nights I'd slept on the office couch, the stress of almost running out of money before the seed round closed. The weight of knowing that 32 employees and thousands of patients depended on decisions I made every day. Different kinds of hard, I said finally. But yes, building a company from nothing is intense. Dad cleared his throat. What happens now, with the funding? We execute our expansion plan, I said. Hire the team we need. Expand to 12 more states over the next 8 months. Improve our AI algorithms. Build partnerships with larger hospital networks. Prove that our model works at scale. And then? Mom asked. Series B in about 18 months if things go according to plan, I said. Probably a $15 20 meters round to fund national expansion. After that, maybe Series C, maybe an acquisition, maybe an IPO eventually. It depends on market conditions and what's best for our mission. An IPO, Dad said faintly. Your company could go public? In 4 or 5 years, potentially, I said. If we continue hitting our growth targets and the market conditions are right. But that's a long way off. Aunt Linda pulled up another article on her phone. You should also mention the advisory board you assembled. Show them who's backing you. I hesitated, but she was already reading aloud. Dr. Margaret Thompson, former Surgeon General. Dr. James Liu, Chief Medical Officer at Mayo Clinic. Rebecca Patel, former VP of Health at Google. These people don't join advisory boards for random startups. They join companies they believe will transform healthcare. The Surgeon General is advising your company? Mom asked. Former Surgeon General, I corrected. And yes, she's passionate about rural healthcare access. When I explained our mission, she immediately wanted to help. Derek laughed, but it wasn't bitter. It was something like wonder. My little sister has the former Surgeon General on speed dial. I wouldn't say speed dial, I said. But yes, we have quarterly advisory board meetings. Dr. Thompson has been incredibly helpful in navigating FDA regulations and healthcare policy. The rest of Christmas dinner passed in a subdued but different atmosphere. Derek was quieter, more thoughtful. My parents asked actual questions about HealthBridge, what we did, how it worked, who we served. Aunt Linda filled in details I was too modest to share, pulling up articles and patient testimonials on her phone. My cousin Sarah peppered me with questions about startup life, technology, and healthcare. She was pre-med at UC Berkeley and suddenly very interested in the intersection of technology and medicine. Could I do an internship with you? She asked. Next summer? I'd love to see how a healthcare startup operates. Send me your resume, I said. We're starting an internship program with the new funding. Medical students with tech interest are exactly who we're looking for. As people were leaving, Dad pulled me aside. Can we talk? Just for a minute? We went to his study, the room where he'd spent years working from home, building his accounting practice. I'm ashamed, he said, without preamble. Deeply ashamed. You built something extraordinary. And I was too busy celebrating your brother's Tesla to notice. You celebrated what you understood, I said. A car is concrete, easy to appreciate. A Series A funding round is abstract and technical. That's not an excuse, he said. I'm your father. I should have tried to understand. Should have asked questions. Should have shown interest in your work instead of dismissing it as too complicated. Yes, I agreed. You should have. I'd like to do better, he said. Starting now. Will you teach me about HealthBridge? About what you do? I want to understand my daughter's life. That requires real effort, I said. Not just tonight's guilty interest, but sustained attention over time. I'm capable of sustained attention, he said. I built an accounting practice over 30 years. I can certainly pay attention to my own daughter's company. Okay, I said. We have a board meeting next month. Observers are allowed. Come to it. See what we're actually doing. His face lit up. Really? You let me observe your board meeting? If you're genuinely interested, yes, I said. But it's 4 hours long. It's technical. You'll hear terms you don't understand. And you'll need to sign an NDA. I'll sign whatever you need, he said, and I'll prepare. I'll read about healthcare technology, about telemedicine, about venture capital. I'll come educated. Then send me your email address, and I'll have my assistant add you to the observer list, I said. He hugged me tightly. I'm so proud of you, Chloe. I should have said that 3 years ago, but I'm saying it now. Thank you, I said. That means something. I drove home to my small apartment in Palo Alto modest, practical, close to the office. The $5.4 million sat in the company's bank account, earmarked for expansion, hiring, and growth. My personal bank account was comfortable but not extravagant. I paid myself a reasonable salary and lived simply, reinvesting everything else into HealthBridge. My phone buzzed with messages. Derek, I'm sorry for being such a self-absorbed ass. Your work is incredible. The Tesla suddenly seems pretty stupid. Mom, reading about HealthBridge on your website. I had no idea. I'm so sorry we weren't paying attention. Sarah, sending my resume tomorrow. Thank you for saying yes to the internship possibility.